good to see you again, Herman.
Good to see you again.
I have a few questions I'd like to ask you.
Okay, I'm ready to answer them.
Okay. How about starting off by giving me your name and where you were born?
Pardon?
Your name and where you were born?
My name is Herman Geist. I was born in Hunts Point in the city of New York.
In the city, okay. Now, how old were you when you joined the Army?
18.
18? Now, where did you enlist into the Army?
I didn't enlist.
Or
I
drafted?
was drafted, and my basic training was Fort Benning, Georgia.
Okay.
And after basic training, we were at the infantry school. It's no longer Fort Benning, but it was Fort Benning then. We had to make a mind up what we were going to do with our military career. I signed up for officer candidate school. Now what happened was my company commander said to me, they're taking a couple of you from our troops and sending them to officer candidate school. I don't think you're old enough to graduate, but I'm also saying we're going to take a chance and put you in line to go to officer candidate school because our unit is not going anywhere. And I'm giving you even though I think you're too young to graduate, we're going to give you a chance to make sure that you're eligible to become an officer.
Oh, great.
And that's what happened. I went to officer candidate school at Fort Benning, and I graduated. I became a second lieutenant.
And what year was that?
What year was that? 1944. I became a second lieutenant. And then what happened there was that all the soldiers were sent to Army Specialized, ASTP, Army Specialized Training. I went to the Citadel.
Wow.
Most of my comrades went not to the Citadel, they went all over. The reason that I went to the Citadel, which incidentally was the home of the cadets from the Civil War. The Citadel was the Army place that I went after my first basic training.
Okay, from Fort Benning.
I went to Fort Benning, the Citadel, and then we were in the Citadel. The commanding general of the Citadel was I forget the exact name, but the commanding general of the Citadel was the person that was in charge of where we were going. I stayed with the Army, and then we were in I joined, what happened was the 2nd Infantry Division became my home base.
Okay.
We went to Leipzig, Germany. That's where my first remembrance of the Army was, Leipzig, Germany. And nowhere in Leipzig was the 2nd Division. That's the unit I was assigned to, Indian Head.
Mm-hmm.
Then we were told that General Patton, the 3rd Army General, wanted a regular Army division to go into the Czech Republic. So what happened was, he got General Eisenhower to give General Patton the 2nd Infantry Division. And we were stationed with General Patton with his 3rd Army. Then, after we were in the 3rd Army, then one night we were still in Bavaria, and I'm in my tent. Sergeant comes in and says, "Lieutenant, there's a young girl out here. She says she's 13 years old, and she wants to talk to you." I went to Captain Harries and Lieutenant Gilbert, and they said, "Okay, see if she's for real." I brought her in, the sergeant brought her in. She was carrying a rifle that was bigger than she was. I said, how do I know you're for real? She said, "This is my password." She gave me her password. At 11 o'clock every night, we checked passwords on BBC. She had the correct password. Captain Harries and Lieutenant Gilbert says, "Junior," they call me Junior, says, "you can't take the whole platoon in. Take a squad, because we don't want, if we have to lose anybody, we don't want to lose the whole platoon."
Right.
So this young girl escorted us through the woods into the outskirts of the city of Domyslice, Czechoslovakia. The first thing I saw was a bunch of women with shaved heads that had been collaborating with the Germans. We went back, spoke to Harries and to Gilbert, and they said, "Okay, you're gonna go take your platoon and go into Domus Lice and see what's happening. So I geared up the platoon. We went into the city of Domus Lice. Incidentally, they made me an honorary citizen of the city of Domus Lice. Then we got our marching orders, and the company commander says, your platoon is going to be the first platoon in. So I took my platoon and we went through the city of Domus Lice on our way to Pilsen. When we got to Pilsen, well, first of all, the roads were strewn with flowers.
Wow.
All the way up, flowers. When we got to Pilsen, I was told, take your platoon in because we were told the Germans were going to surrender to you. So my platoon, the 3rd Platoon, 2nd Battalion, 38th Infantry Regiment, went into Pilsen. And lo and behold, the Germans surrendered to me. The German army surrendered to me on May 7th, 1945.
Wow.
And they took a group of us into a bar. I remember we came out of the bar not very sober. I remember telling my mother, Mom, if we can't drink with them, we can't fight with them. So we spent time in Pilsen. And then we were given, General Patton was given orders to take the unit and make sure that they were in good hands. I'll never forget being in Pilsen, Czechoslovakia. We stayed in Pilsen until we got orders to return. We got orders to go back to the States because we were going to be going to Japan. When we got home on May, I'm not sure of the exact date, but we got home on May 27th. We got home to the United States. We joined with the 77th Infantry Reserve. The Americans dropped the bomb, and we didn't go.
Now, when did you get out of the Army? What year?
I got out of the Army. I was in the reserves,
Okay.
the 77th Infantry Division. As I said, that was Julius Oxadler, New York Times, Winthrop Rockefeller, one of the brothers, G4, Keith McKesson Robbins was the G3 intelligence. The G2 was Willis Terry. No, the G2 the G2 was Willis Terry. And then we hung around for a while, but eventually I was separated from the service. And went back to school. Went back to college. We went back to NYU. And then after I graduated college, then I decided to go to law school. So we went to law school after I did my accounting background work. Eventually, as all good things have to come to an end, so did my military service. Then, the 77th Infantry Division stayed around, hung around, and we belonged to it. Pilsen was always on the horizon. And you have to remember, when the Germans surrendered to me in 1940, on May 7th, the Russians still hadn't surrendered because they got lost. Russians always got lost. But when we went into Pilsen, the Germans' army surrendered to Lieutenant Geist.
That's great.
And that's a great story.
It is a great story. Thank you for sharing that.